Good evening, folks. We are live once again. Let me get everything switched over and we will kick off today's drawing stream. Early, for once. Hallelujah. Alright, let's turn the BGM on. Alright, that should be going. Hey, Iconic's here. What's up, Iconic? How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. Welcome back to the internet. Hopefully your outage problems are solved. Alright, everything should be coming across audibly. I'll make sure my tweet got posted. Alright. Iconic says it was a bill thing, and yeah, thanks. Good to be back. Ah, I see. Well, it's always good to make sure bills get paid. I had something similar happen with my insurance in December. I accidentally deleted one of my insurance notices, thinking it was one of my insurance things that pays automatically every month. And it turns out it was my auto insurance that does not pay automatically, like, twice a year. And so, like, my insurance pings me several weeks after it was due and is like, hey, you didn't pay your auto insurance. You not want auto insurance anymore? I was like, ah, crap. All right. Go in there, pay it immediately. I would like auto insurance, please. They didn't charge me any fees, I don't think. I didn't look. I just went in there and paid it because it's a larger amount being paid twice a year, which is why I don't have it auto pay, just to make sure I have money to pay it in my account before it goes out. So I need to pay more attention around December and probably around June or July. Keep an eye out for notices so I don't miss my freaking insurance. Hey, I see Red Dragon's here. What's up, Red Dragon? How are you doing today? Let me restart my tablet. There it goes. Okay, that's weird. I noticed my tablet has been doing weird hardware things lately, which is a little ominous. Just checking my settings. It has been a while since we've worked on Infinite Fusion Sprites, it feels like. Her Dragon says, doing good, thanks. You? Ah, I'm doing alright. Thanks for asking. It's been moderately busy at work. But other than that, no real complaints. Okay. Let's see. Let me double check. Yeah, okay. This is the canvas we normally use. It has been quite a while. I see Iconic's going to eat dinner. Alright, Iconic. Enjoy your dinner. But yeah, to answer your question, Red Dragon, it's been going good. I've been slowly getting stuff together for a big trip that I mentioned before at the end of February. So that's the next thing on the horizon that I gotta deal with. But I'm looking forward to it, getting stuff set up. I will be out of pocket for about 2 weeks real time. I'll post something on the Discord when I'm eventually gone, so you folks will know. And maybe, if I plan correctly, the earlier part of February, I'll have some YouTube content that can go up in the meantime. But I tried to do that last time when I went to Japan and it didn't pan out. I didn't have time, but I will see if I can do something. The Dragon says, oh, nice. Where to? Oh, I think I mentioned this before. It's not a secret. I don't mind talking about it, but I'm going to Japan again at the end of February. and it is going to be an interesting trip. I am taking my family there this time. My parents from Homeworld have never been there before, obviously, and so I have been planning a trip for them. And so that should be fun. Oh, I see Capri Sun's here. Capri Sun has redeemed Drop a Beat. Very good. As is tradition, the start of the streams. What's up, Capri Sun? Welcome to the stream. We're just getting started. Well, let me pause this. Yes, as is tradition. Pause the BGM. Put the headphones on. Let me fix my model real quick. There we go. Oh, I got to think a little bit. Didn't really give any thought to what I'd want to do. But I'll figure something out. Capri Sun says, might have to lay off for a bit so I can save up so I can continue to do it every stream. You don't have to do it every stream, especially if you don't have a huge bank of points. You could do it every other stream and save up if you want. Just don't feel pressured to do it every time. It's all good. All right, I think I got one. I was fiddling around with this particular beat last night, so I can test it out on you folks today. Let's try some drum and bass again. It's been a little while. Let's get it. Well, where's my keyboard? All right, let's turn the BGM back on. Actually, real quick, before I turn the BGM back on, the reason why I wanted to do that beat is because it featured something we talked about last stream, I think, Capri Sun. We were talking about tongue bass. We were talking about like rolling the tongue to create a sound that a lot of people can do naturally, depending on the language they speak. And we were talking a little bit about that because I think you can already do it. So we're explaining how it fits into beatbox skill set and whatnot. And there was an example that I didn't explain that is probably one of the more distinct ways to use tongue bass. And it came to me when I was messing around, experimenting with beats in my my workshop, where I do my best beatbox thinking, which is my shower. I posted a meme about it like two years ago, but for some reason, all my ideas come to me when I'm taking a shower. I don't know why. Can't explain it. But I did want to explain it here since I made it part of that beat, specifically to force myself to remember to explain it. Capri Sun says, been working on that. It was a stim for me, something I did, so it became muscle memory. So much it became muscle memory. Okay, good. So maybe this will help as far as how to adapt the technique into fun different ways, because we talked a little bit, and this is just going to be a quick sidebar on beatboxing stuff, because if I don't talk about it now, I will forget to talk about it. And Dragon says shower beats. I don't know why. Maybe it's the acoustics or the fact that I'm not exposed to any stimulus like a computer screen, but I do my best beatbox thinking in the shower. Go figure. So we talked about the tongue bass, rolling your tongue and breathing out and isolating the sound. And if you want to hear me break that down a bit, I think it was the last stream before this. I think DSP. I think. No, it would have been on the weekend. Blasphemous. I think it was Blasphemous. I think. One of those previous streams. Either way, we talked about it there, and I can always talk about it on the jam streams. We got one this weekend. But basic tongue bass sound sounds like... It also occurred to me when I was thinking about this yesterday that if you change your mouth positioning a little bit, like open and close, kind of just not quickly, but just as you're doing the sound, you can make the Transformers noise too. But you have to kind of isolate it and change your mouth position a bit, but it's the same thing. And that's how you get the same thing. That's using tongue bass. You can do it with other sounds too, but I know a bunch of people have used it that way. But the thing I wanted to talk about was something I didn't really explain at all when it comes to vocalizing tongue bass. Prisan says, I have a voice acting credit to my name now. Oh, nice. You should link the project that you're working on, if you feel comfortable, in the media share so everyone can check it out. I want to do more voice acting. I've done a few couple random things for Wazi before. Oh, I see. Red Dragon has linked the Discord again. Yes, very good. Yeah, put it in media share when the project is out or when you feel like sharing it, but no pressure. Okay, so tongue-based technique, sub-variant, I think. Again, kind of more fun when it comes to adapting the sound. So we talked a little bit when we were explaining the technique last time about how you can vocalize the tongue bass just by putting your voice behind the rolling of the tongue. And if you do it low, you get something like... Gets kind of like a bass line below it. Gives it a little bit of low end. And so that could be pretty functional, but it's hard to hear sometimes because the actual tongue bass itself offers so much distortion that the tone is kind of lost when you're putting them together. But if you go high with the noise the tone that you're making behind tongue bass, it comes out a lot more audible, which is what I did in the drop a beat that we did just a minute ago. So instead of going like let's say you go higher in like the hum note, something like really simple type of sound, right? But you combine that with the tongue bass rolling sound, you get which sounds like an oscillating high tone, which is kind of unusual. You hear it in a lot of like drum and bass type songs. So when I did the sample beat before, what I did was I had it be an ascending note going from a lower pitch that's in the high register to a mid register to high, and that's how you get a and all you're doing is just pitching up the note while keeping the tongue bass the same. And it sounds like an engine revving up, like a turbine revving up. It's kind of a cool technique. It just takes a little bit of practice manipulating the voice pitch. But other than that, it's just singing a high note at the same time as doing the distortion. And that, I think, is a much more distinct use of it than what I explained last time. Hence, thought I should mention it here just for reference, because we were talking about when Capri Sun was here during the Blasphemous stream. So that's your beatbox minute on today's stream. Now let me go turn on the BGM and we'll actually get to work drawing. Alright, there it goes. Can I hear it? I have it turned down on my headphones so it's not blasting my eardrums. So what are we working on today? As the now drawing prompt up at the top suggests, we're working on some more teleporter accident abominations with Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Pre-Sun says, I had a Menti B deleted my Twitch. Yes, Raku, I appreciate I was able to add a high pitch easily. Can't wait to talk about it more at the jam stream. Oh, good. Good. Keep experimenting around the technique, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some interesting ways to kind of tweak it and then manipulate it to do different things. But you don't have to wait to the jam streams to talk about things, especially if something pops into your brain during one of these other ones. Like I said, it's not going to derail what we're doing to talk about beatbox stuff for a little bit. I don't mind. So at any point, feel free to ask questions and whatnot. And Capri Sun asks, have you seen the weird mill tanks Wazzy does? Oh, I've seen him. I've seen him. It's kind of, it reminds me of that one, I think it's a Tumblr site or something, where a guy did like Garfield Pokemon, and he was going through like every single generation. I haven't looked at that one in a while, but basically it was all of the mainline Pokemon adapted into a Garfield. It was really, really creative. That's what the mill tank thing reminds me of. Hey, Iconic's back. Welcome back, Iconic. We have not started drawing anything yet. We're just talking a bit about beatbox technique and mill tanks, apparently. All right. So what are we doing today? We are going to attempt to combine two Pokemon based on the results of the last Infinite Fusion playthrough session. And I thought a little bit about this one after we got through that stream. And this one's going to be tough. I think this one's going to be pretty challenging, but there is money on my mother, mine. Cop 5 haircuts at the same time. White gold pants, jet ski made of wine. Foie gras bust of Albert Einstein. Get money. Hey, Sour Lad with the resub. 16 months. Thank you for the resub, Sour Lad. Very kind of you. And welcome to the stream. Everybody say hi to Sour Lad. Welcome. We haven't started doing anything yet. It's been 20 minutes, and that's okay. I still have a better output ratio of content whenever it comes to these than Wazzy, and that's all that matters, right? Capri Sun says, how about Weedle and a Rockruff? I do appreciate the bug component suggestion, since that's my favorite type. Keep that one on the back burner for now, Capri Sun. The one I'm working on today is one specifically that I had prepared for today's stream, but it's going to be a challenge, so I think we'll have a good opportunity to kind of put our brain cells together to come up with something. Ooh, see, Red Dragon has redeemed Small Raku and a Raku Factu. We're cashing out them points. All right, let's do the small first. I'm going to stand on top of my tablet. And we'll see how long it takes me to remember to turn it off. Dragon says all the points. Hydrate and a stretch. All right, fact. I meant to update my fact list, and I absolutely did not do that recently. Capri Sun says 21:32 is when it started. Yeah, I do have a timer that's running right above my head. I just never forget to turn it back off. It's the same timer I use for Swear Timer. It's 5 minutes for the small. I just never remember to turn it back on. Usually someone has to remind me, so I'll try and keep an eye out. But let me go pull up the fact list. I do have one, actually. And let me make sure I didn't already say this one, and I gotta reach over and type it on the list just to make sure. Okay, all right. This one is not on the list. Red Dragon says you should have it count up when it hits 0, 0, so count upwards to see how long you forget about it. That would be really funny. Since Capri Sun has time stamped it, if it takes me like 10 minutes, then we'll know. Capri Sun says, yeah, but it's on the record, but you edit these for YouTube logs, right? I don't really edit the VODs unless I need to cut parts out or do something. Usually it's just the straight VOD off Twitch that I re-upload on YouTube. So usually the stuff that you see on here on the broadcast is just in the archives, so people would be able to see the timer and everything else. But I used to edit them, but now that I can just migrate the VODs directly out of Twitch, I don't do that just to save time. All right, let's get the fact before I forget again. So your true Raku fact, and you can choose whether or not you want to believe me, it's fine, but I have never been arrested, which you think I would have mentioned that earlier on, but just never occurred to me because no one has ever asked. But I'm going to put that on the list as one I've said. I had to go through background check stuff recently for my job, which is why this one popped out in my brain. I was like, I should put that on there. It's true fact. All right, let me close this. Sorry, let's say, did my sub message show? It did. Yes. I got the alert and it popped up. Even Twitch is being glitchy. Yeah, we did see it. So in case you didn't hear me, sorry, lad. Thank you. Thank you for the resub. Free Sun says, I've been arrested by citation. Red Dragon says, I have. I don't know if that was in reference to being arrested, but I'm not going to pry. I don't need to know the specifics. It's really none of my business. But something you have to disclose on actual background checks. Hence, it was fresh in my mind. Red Dragon says, yes, I've been in a cell overnight. That does not sound fun. Hopefully it worked out. Alright, I need to actually explain what we're doing. I've been looking at a blank canvas for so long, but talking to you people is more important than what I'm doing here. But we're going to combine two Pokemon that I did some research. I looked on the Fusion Dex site and I could not find a custom sprite for this one. And it features one of my top favorite Pokemon, which is also part of the challenge. So we're going to combine one that we picked up in the last playthrough. We're going to combine Kyurem, which is this is a legendary, right? It's an ice dragon. We're going to combine Kyurem as the body. I got to be careful with how I order these because the components and the order is important. We are going to combine on the head good old slashy boy Scyther, my favorite Pokemon. Scyther plus Kyurem, the combined fusion Syrem. So we need to put Scyther's head and palette on Kyurem's body and then incorporate the design elements. And this one is going to be pretty challenging. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way through it today, but we're going to try. And for reference, just so we can compare, the auto-generated sprite for Syrem, which is the name of the fusion, looks like this. It's fuzzy because I just scaled down one off the site, since the in-game stuff scales higher than the game asset stuff. So it's fuzzy, but you can see it. And so this one's pretty... It's functional, and if it didn't have the weird anti-aliasing on the native version, it would look somewhat okay, but it looks kind of stapled together. So we're going to take this idea and we're going to attempt to make it better. Got some ideas on how to adapt some things from this and make it better. Pre-Sun says, so it'll have wings and scythes. Oh yeah, pretty much like I imagined. That's the plan. But we have some leeway to kind of adapt things as we see fit. So let's start with Kurem's base. Since we're basically going to be adapting this and then putting Scyther's head and other details on it. I got hydrate from Iconic too. My initial thought was to start at the head, since we have to be able to put Scyther's head on this one's body, so we'll move you up here. And unlike some of the other ones we've done... Oh hey, timer did end. Good call, Capri Sun. That was like 3 minutes. I've done much worse. That's a little too big. There we go. Pre-Sun says, whole stream, small Raku. I feel like I should just make it a free redeem at that point. Okay. So a couple ways to attack this one. We're going to be doing our edits on the main Kurem sprite. And I think I'll start by just erasing the base head and putting in line work. Because we'll be erasing a lot of the main sprite and then adding in other details, I'm probably going to line the whole thing in black and then do the shading according to the color assignment and everything else once we do it. But let's give us a place to start here on the head. Pre-Sun says, Raku, I have a question about a game. Have you ever played Fallout New Vegas? If you ever so, have you ever considered it doing on stream, or have you already done it, and have I missed it? I know it's not relevant to what's going on. I was just curious. Oh, no, that's fine. The short answer is I have not played New Vegas. I couldn't really get into the Fallout games. I think 3 was the last one I played. The style just wasn't really my jam. Not that I thought the game was bad or anything. Definitely not. Just wasn't really my gameplay style. It was also a pretty deep rabbit hole, and I was a little bit wary about getting sucked into, given how slowly I play games in general. I've heard 4, and especially New Vegas, is a lot better, but I just haven't really sunk the time. Okay, I'm gonna take the wings off too. I don't know much about Kurem. This is I think Gen 5. It's a legendary, I believe. It's a dragon ice, but I'm assuming these things here are wings. But we're going to basically clip this thing's wings. So I'm going to start deleting out stuff just to give me a bit more space to work with, and we'll start adding details as we go. We're going to start with the head, and then we're going to kind of work our way across the body and start adapting things. I haven't done this in such a long time, it seems like. Feels like it's been months, but in reality it's probably been just a few weeks. Maybe a month at the most since we last worked on Infinite Fusion stuff, which means I'm going to be a bit rusty when it comes to the shading and lighting. So this one might take more than one session because it's kind of a complicated one to do. Red Dragon says, I dislike Fallout 2. Breeson says, that's okay, entirely valid. It's kind of a time sink. Yeah, it's... Like I said, I spent some time with one of the titles, understanding that it wasn't probably the best one to start with, but... just kind of wasn't really my jam. Alright, let's put you back. Starlight asks, are you going to make the model thinner? I don't know, body-wise. Kurum's kind of a round, chunky boy. We'll see. I might keep the main body shape, but one thing I was thinking could help a little bit with our headless, wingless one here. I'm thinking about taking the tail right here, and adapting like an insect-like tail. Scyther is kind of like an insect abdomen type deal right here. It's hard to see in this one. So I'm thinking about adapting that, maybe giving it a bit more of a pronounced, not like a big junk in the trunk type thing. Maybe something like this to kind of bring together the idea of a bug, since this one, type-wise, the fusion is bug ice. There might be ice bug. Bug first, then ice. And I can actually create this one in the playthrough if I manage to find a friggin' Scyther. It has eluded me in the playthrough thus far. But I will get one eventually. I do need a bug ice type as well. So, we'll see. At the very least, it's a design challenge that I thought would be fun, so we will see how it turns out. Now, for the head, I think I am going to shorten the neck a little bit. Kurum's got this kind of long, narrow neck. I imagine if this thing was standing straight up, it'd look kind of like a telephone pole. So I'm going to cut the neck off about here. And let's see, Scyther's got spikes. So we need to be a little bit careful with scale. And I thought about doing a side profile, which might make it a little easier. But it's tricky because the perspective here is really 3/4, so I'll kind of experiment around with that and see what makes the most sense. Like the body here is 3/4, but the head, the original head for Kurum, I probably should have made a copy of that. Let me grab the original real quick. Yeah, the original is 3/4. It's hard to tell because the head's really wide, but it is 3/4. So maybe we need to do that. Just kind of move it over a little bit. Breeson says, Angry forgot no Platinum remake. Platinum remake. Platinum, like a Platinum game? I'm assuming you're talking about the PlayStation event that happened. I have not watched it. And I imagine if there was anything earth-shattering release-wise to come out, I would have heard about it on Twitter already. Oh, Pokemon Platinum. Gotcha. I was hoping for a Bloodborne announcement, just like everybody else who likes Bloodborne is hoping for an announcement, but that didn't happen. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're ever going to have a PC port of Bloodborne. I think Sony's got an ironclad grip on the rights, and it's never going to leave. That's my theory, and if I'm wrong, I'd love to be proven wrong there. Pre-Sun says there's probably an entire port of Bloodborne fully made for PC, but Sony canceled it. That's what I learned. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, given how tight they are with the rights to things. Which is disappointing. If Bloodborne came out on PC, I'd absolutely pick it up and I would stream it. You folks would probably see almost as much Bloodborne as you do Monster Hunter. I really like that game. Maybe they'll make a sequel someday. Who knows? I did see up top before it gets buried. Red Dragon asks, "What setting do you have CS on to do this?" Are you talking about the sprite work? I'm not using Clip Studio right now. This is Photoshop. But the short answer, in fact, I gotta actually look it up because I don't remember. The image settings for pixel edit stuff. Where are you? Oh, you can't see it. It doesn't pop up in OBS. But under image settings, there's a nearest neighbor mode to turn on, which helps for pixel stuff. Other than that, I'm just working at a really, really small resolution. Like this canvas, for relevance, is a 96 by 96, which is the standard dimensions for an Infinite Fusion native sprite, and you scale it up to 288 when it's done. But the reason why I do it in Photoshop is because I had kind of a tough time configuring Clip Studio to do this. Otherwise, I'd use that. But there's a way to set up Clip Studio for pixel art. It was tough to figure out, so I just stuck with Photoshop since I have it. Red Dragon also asks, "What are your thoughts on Palworld?" Palworld is indeed a hot topic right now, isn't it? Well, I haven't played it, for one. First and foremost, I haven't played it, but it looks interesting, and some friends of mine are playing it right now. Of the content creator folks, I know Ramen's playing it, but I haven't talked to him about it at all. I think Palworld's really interesting. The premise and the whole setup and everything looks cool. I just haven't picked it up yet. I'm kind of watching the development to see where it goes, and just to kind of get a gauge on the gameplay and how much legs it has. But I've heard good things. I've heard pretty much unanimously good things from people I know who are playing it. It's just unfortunate that the game causes so much what I consider destructive discourse. I think I talked about that when we were playing Dyson Sphere last week. We were talking about like AI stuff, and I think Palworld came up as part of that discussion. People are getting backlash for just playing the game, which I think is really stupid. It is not identical, but it's a similar type of situation to the whole Hogwarts Legacy thing, where if people are using it as a platform to rally against other people, which is not good. It's just a game. It's just a silly Pokemon-inspired, parody game. That's the reason why I haven't streamed it, really. I do think it's interesting, and I might pick it up, depending on where they go with the development. But as far as streaming it, I don't want that kind of attention. And it seems kind of unfortunate that, a lot of the discourses is going to be a Raku Talks politics moment. I try not to do it often. But when the game came out, there was a lot of discussion about, is there AI? Did they use AI to create things? Because the company that made it had done an AI game before, and the CEO had expressed interest in AI as a technology. Well, as far as anyone could tell as of this week, there's been no proof that they used AI to create their stuff. Are the PAL designs pretty derivative and inspired by Pokemon? Of course. You could accuse them of being too derivative for sure, but there's been no proof that they used AI. But people are using that as a way to brigade against the game, or people who support the game, which is not good. And like Capri Sun is saying, they would have to disclose it on Steam as part of the policy when it comes to putting games up there. I haven't read the policy, but that is correct. They've got to disclose if they used AI to create assets in their game. So you have one party that's like, well, it's clearly AI because it's so close, which, again, hasn't been proven yet. I'd love to see proof, and if it is proven, okay, that's going to cause a lot of problems for the game. But then you have another camp that's arguing for Power World, saying, well, AI discussions aside, it's just a ripoff of Pokemon. It's too close, it's too derivative, they stole the designs. And part of the problem with people making that argument to, bring down Power World, because they're so gung-ho Pokemon fans, I would assume, is you have misinformation going around where I saw one person on Twitter last week or so said, hey, I ripped the models, and the models from Power World are identical in scale and skeleton to Pokemon. It's clear they ripped it off, and it's just basically stealing assets, right? That was the argument. And it went super viral on Twitter. Everyone picked it up and ran with it. And it was a whole, additional part of the discourse. Well, the person came back later, and after they were kind of called out for intentionally scaling the models from Power World to match the Pokemon. So they doctored the images. They doctored the models and scaled them to look identical. They're probably still close. They're very close from a rigging perspective, but this person using this as an argument said, oh, no, I scaled them. I basically falsified information to make my argument. And then when they were further called out, this is the same person, I believe, they said, well, I'm doing this because I think Power World, promotes or glorifies animal abuse or something like that. That was their argument. They said, I'm doing all this because Power World is glorifying animal abuse or something stupid like that. So you have all this discussion and debate. Then you have misinformation being tossed in as part of the discussion and debate. And it's just very messy. I was telling some friends of mine in a discussion about the game, I said, it's just exhausting to read the discourse. At this point, enjoy the game if you want. Don't play the game if you don't like it, or you don't want to support something that derivative. But this whole idea of crusades and witch hunting and stuff is just counterproductive. But a lot of this is Twitter, so I don't think anyone should be surprised. It's just, it sucks that people can't enjoy a product. All right. Let me see what else I missed up in the chat. Capri Sun had said you could say anything's derivative of something, something's based on something else. I don't think it has to do with AI, and I'm pretty sure Steam had that clause. Exactly. And then Sourlat says, another point that a bunch of people have made, which is pretty true, I think, as well. Sourlat says, Nintendo hasn't gone airstrike on Power World. I don't know if they're going to make a court case. I only know they went after the guy who made the Pokemon for PAL. Exactly. Twofold argument there. So one, Nintendo's got a pretty litigious reputation for sending lawsuits after people, and Power World's known development has been public for a few years now. If Nintendo was going to go after them for stealing their assets, they would have done it by now, given what's known. I did see them make a statement last week saying they were going to look into it further, just probably to make sure, but because of the Japanese intellectual property law, which is different from here in fair use, Nintendo would have probably gone after them already before the game even came out. We've seen them torpedo fan projects before they come out that were not for profit. So you can probably assume they're either working on something or they would have done it already. As for the guy who made the mod, some dude made a mod to basically put Ash Ketchum and the Pokemon from the games into Power World, and he was selling it via Patreon, which is probably the biggest thing that got him in trouble. And so he got taken down, which sucks, but to not see that one coming seems like it'd be kind of a surprise to me. That's the type of thing Nintendo's going to go after readily because they have a case. Red Dragon says, the big problem I have is when they say they copy paste, they compare PAL versus Pokemon, like a Meowth to a cat that looks like a massive Tic Tac. It's pretty easy to make the argument that there's a lot of common details and inspiration between the designs. It's very clear in looking at the comparison, but heavy inspiration and derivative is not the same as stealing an asset, which is what it comes down to in a court case over copyright. You can't. I don't think you can make the argument, and maybe Japanese court works differently. I guess we'll see, but you can't say this looks similar to a Meowth in a couple things, therefore it's ripping us off. Versus if they just put Meowth into the game, or they just put Pikachu into the game. If it's just a wholesale one-to-one, that's your argument for copyright infringement. But just because it looks similar or close, I don't think it's going to hold up in court. Is it really derivative? Yeah. I don't think that's the argument being made. But as far as it being legally enforceable, I don't think so. We'll find out. I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. But we'll see. The ethical discussion is one that's interesting, but just the polarization of the diehard Pokemon fans and people willing to just trash Power World without much evidence or any evidence is frustrating to see. But like Zarlad had mentioned further up, it's Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It's Twitter. That type of behavior is not new, which is why I tend to try and stay away from topical debates and discussion on Twitter. I follow people I like, and occasionally I'll look at funny things on there, but I don't engage. I don't participate in all that. Life's too short. Good example, parallel, and not just with Power World, but another thing that is relevant to at least a couple people here, I imagine, has been Hotel, which I know I've been talking to Capri-san on and off stream about Has Been Hotel, but that series, which is free on Amazon Prime, you should definitely watch it if you've got Prime. It's a very, very good show. Both Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, in fact, but Has Been's the one that's more recent in its release, is also the subject of a lot of interesting and sometimes constructive, but a lot of times not constructive, discourse on Twitter. Capri-san says if he's going to continue to dead name his daughter, I'm going to dead name his website. It's Twitter and always will be. X is a stupid name, and I have no respect for Elon Musk, so I'm going to call it Twitter. Son says, I'm trying to get on my parents' Prime household to get it for free. The way they handled Angel's sexual assault was not great, in my opinion. Are you talking about the way the show handled it, or the way people reacted to it? Because, I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but the portrayal in the show, at least to me, again, personal opinion here, the portrayal in the show was not pleasant and not comfortable, and I think that was the point. The problem I had with Twitter's take, the way Twitter responded to episode 4, I believe it was, Masquerade, was they said it was fetishizing abuse, and I don't really agree with that. There are a bunch of different ways to kind of interpret and communicate things like abuse, but to me, looking at the way the show did it, didn't look like it was glorifying it. If so, then it to me, the overall impact to people would have been a little different. And that's just maybe my personal interpretation. Everyone's going to respond differently. It's difficult subject matter, and I think it would be a challenge to present in any format, in any manner. But I disagree with the take from against Twitter, so take it with a big grain of salt. The idea that it was glorifying or fetishizing abuse, I don't necessarily agree with. Pre-Sun says, my problem is I wasn't expecting it. It felt like it came out of nowhere. I think that could be a pretty fair criticism. I guess it kind of depends, since the setting, again, we won't go into spoilers for folks who haven't seen Has Been Hotel yet. The actual subject matter and material being covered is disclosed as a disclaimer, like a trigger warning in the episode. So that's not like a secret. But to me, it felt like it was going to be addressed at some point, and whether or not you saw it coming kind of just depends on your read on the show, obviously. But again, the idea, and one of the things that really confused me about Twitter, again, it's Twitter, was people were saying that they felt like they could have conveyed it better themselves. This is one of the arguments that I heard, which was X, not specifically anything that I can remember, but the show should have done it this way, or the show shouldn't have done it this way, or this way, because the way they did it was bad. And I think that's kind of a flawed way to look at it, because it's going to be open to everybody's interpretation. Not everyone is going to interpret a situation of abuse the same. I think the way they did it was thematically accurate to the universe and everything, but that's not what Twitter's saying. Twitter's saying it's wrong, and or it shouldn't have been depicted at all, which is something I definitely don't agree with. It's part of the character's core development. Again, not talking about spoilers, but to ignore something like that would be a disservice to the character development. So you can't just say, oh no, it's an uncomfortable topic, we're not going to talk about it. That's definitely not the way to go either, I think. But I get the feeling a lot of the people making these arguments were just using it as a reason to want to cancel the show, because they don't like the show to begin with. It's not really a civil discourse, which, again, it's Twitter. Not surprising. Can't have a civil discourse on there. It's always, pitchforks. It's always pitchforks. Priestland says, oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing that it's thematically relevant. I wasn't prepared, and that's pretty much my only problem, which is more on me than the show. I still love the show. I think it's perfectly fine to have that kind of reaction to that difficult of subject matter, Capri Sun. And the problem, I think, in general, with conveying heavy subject matter, like, again, we're talking about abuse, the difficulty is no matter how you approach it, everyone's going to react to it differently. But I think that's fine. I mean, the worst thing you could do is have no reaction at all to depictions of something horrible like that, right? If anybody, even people who haven't suffered abuse themselves, have a viscerally bad or revulsion type reaction to it, it means it's communicated the way it's supposed to be from a thematic perspective. Now, there's no universal way to do that. Obviously, everyone will react differently. But again, my issue with the Twitter brainlets is that they're saying, one, you didn't do it right, I know a better way, or two, you shouldn't show it at all, which to me is flawed. That's the thing about Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss too. Both those shows tackle pretty heavy subject matter, but they don't do it in a way that glorifies it. And that's the argument I think I dislike the most, is that, oh, these shows talk about these subjects and they glorify it. I don't get that from any of them. Starlight says, downfall of Vivzy Pop started because they got mad at a meme, blocked the guy, made a rant related to it, and maybe a foggy allegation about underpaid artists. I don't know if it was real or not. I definitely think Vivian or Vivzy needs to just not respond on Twitter. Like, every time she tries to defend something or engage with people that are clearly just haters for haters' sake, it goes poorly. There's no way to appease the masses, and the people that are trying to get a reaction by saying all sorts of terrible things are never gonna not do that. Like, I think it would just be so much better to not engage and give those people a platform. Just ignore them, let them scream into the void, which is tough. I know she's passionate about her creation and wants everyone to appreciate it. And like Sarlad saying, it's cool, but it's not for me. Not everyone is gonna like a show like Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss, and that's fine. But the people that hate it are always going to try and find a way to antagonize people that work on the show, support the show, or whatever. And there's just no reason to give them that. They don't deserve it. And trying to cut people like that off and ignore them, it's tough. Especially you're a public personality and you're getting hate all the time from all angles. That's got to really wear on your sanity. But it's just one of those things on the internet. It's tough. Like, I don't know the solution to that. I'm not a psychologist. Sarahlat says, there's a reason why things... I better save before I forget. There's a reason why things like Big Mouth somehow got 8 seasons and a spin-off. I've never seen Big Mouth. I believe this is what I'm thinking of. The art style absolutely turned me off on that one. Didn't really resonate with me too much. Starlight says, they say swears that can even tire out a 3-hour floor rage Wazzy. Johnny tests levels of whip crack swears. I didn't know that it was a show that had swearing, because again, it wasn't on my radar for any sort of reason, but that's kind of weird. I always thought it was a kid's show. Apparently it was not. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm putting in a placeholder. I know we've been talking a lot about stuff that's not related to what I'm drawing, which hopefully at least you folks can see that I'm actually making progress on this thing. The discussion is really good, so I definitely don't want to discourage anything we're talking about. But on the topic of the drawing itself, this is tough because I have to kind of line out details and delete other parts. I'm gonna have to go in and color fill a lot of this. We're basically reconstructing the sprite in pieces, which is very difficult, but hopefully the results will be worth it. I'm putting the scythe arms over here. Now this part, I was trying to figure out what this part is right here. I think this is part of the throat. Let me go see if I can grab a better render of Kurum. I don't know what this thing actually looks like. Red Dragon says, I'm starting to think I'm an alien like you, Raku. If I don't like a show I'm watching, I just don't watch it. That's pretty much all you need to do. But in today's age of social media and clout, I think, people feel the need to go and be really public about what they don't like and project it on the people that create the content or other people that like it. And that's really dumb. Sarlad says, the Vivzy meme was about how their show had a lot of swears and it got popular on Twitter. What if Vivzy Pop made and it was swears in a video? Oh, I remember seeing that. That's what Vivian responded to that caused such an uproar. Again, she just needs to not respond to anything. It would be so much easier, I think, for her sanity to just not be on Twitter, but I don't think she's planning on leaving anytime soon. Let me see if I can grab a better shot of Kurum. I need to see what this part here is. It's either the shoulder or the throat. I think it might be the throat. Let's see. Purim. Oh, that's a better not sprite based picture. Oh, I think it's part of the shoulder. Yeah, it's part of that ice armor along the shoulder. I think that's what that is. Okay, can work with that. Yeah, like Cyrelat says, don't add fuel to the fire. Well, I know you folks are younger than I am, but you've been on the internet for a little bit. You might remember the age-old adage when it comes to being on the internet. It says, don't feed the trolls. I think some of you are probably old enough to remember when that in itself was a meme, right? Don't feed the trolls. It literally just means don't give attention to people that are trying to get a rise out of you. Which is tough. I know people are talking smack or attacking something that you care about. Whew. It can be tough to ignore, but they're only doing it for attention, so the more attention you give them, the more they win and feel empowered to do what they do. I know it can be tough, especially if you're a content creator with a big audience. But they always say a good measure of success is how many haters you have. If you've got a lot of haters, then it must mean you're doing something right. Alright, Scyther also has this accented line going along its sides like this. We'll clean the line work up a little bit. Try and make it follow the original up here, chilling up here. Presun says, I did hate watch pretty much all of Season 1 Velma and hated every second of it, more for the fact it clearly wasn't the show they wanted to make, and the way they handled anxiety was more like a psychotic episode. Speaking from experience, and even then, the very definition of psychosis and anxiety, and just Mindy talking liking a transphobic tweet from J.K. Rowling, and probably around the time I left Twitter. I don't think there's anything good to say about the Velma show. I haven't watched it, but watching Nux dissect it and watching him slowly go insane from emotional, psychological damage was pretty much the only way I could consume a show like that. It looked like just an abhorrent product. Shocking. It didn't have to be, but it definitely, yeah, looked like it handled a lot of things poorly, to the surprise of probably not a lot of people. Okay, I'm gonna try and I'm just gonna have to go for a black outline just to define these, and then I'm gonna have to change the coloring. Sorry, that says Froggy liked it unironically. I doubt he liked it unironically. Froggy's a magnet for terrible products, or he gravitates towards terrible products. I'd be surprised if he liked it unironically. If so, I'd like to hear his arguments. It's possible to like something because it's a train wreck, but to me that doesn't sound unironic. Freesun says, I think he did seem to really enjoy it. Well, you know, people have the right to enjoy a product. Just because something is bad doesn't mean it's universally bad to everybody. I just don't know anyone who didn't think it was bad. Apparently there were defenders of the Velma show. I don't really care one way or the other, because I wasn't going to invest the time or money to consume it. But, hey, someone could find something they like in it. I'd love to hear their arguments, and even if I don't agree, they're welcome to their opinion. Oh, I can already see now doing the color assignment's going to be a pain. Yeah, I'm gonna line stuff in, and I'll have to change the highlighting when I get there. The color assignment and like the line work is gonna be difficult for this. I wonder if I'm gonna get in trouble for being too off model with the hindquarters. The bug rear. I guess we'll find out. Sarah says Froggy's the reason why movies are 10 to 38% and not 0. There'll always be an audience for something when it comes out. And to me, it's not really anyone's place of saying, well, you shouldn't like A or B, unless it, like Sarah is saying, if it's a moral or legal or reason or something like that, that's different. If it's just a product you don't like, then there's nothing wrong with that. And no one has the really justification to police what other people like. Again, not taking into account moral, ethical, or legal things. Just realized Kurum has a lot of texture on its body, on these lines. That's going to be interesting to work with as well. I'm tempted to block in more of its color and then change the texturing to be more kind of similar to the way Scyther has these like segmented parts here on its body. In fact, it might make my job easier to just simplify it, delete out all those parts that are in there now, just so I can have a little bit easier time coloring the thing. And we add that as additional detail once the color is filled in and whatnot. That might be an easier approach. We'll find out. Because I want the line work to be clean before we start going in with colors. And I definitely need to consider getting a new monitor because it's getting difficult for me to tell color shades apart. The contrast is starting to really get kind of fuzzed. And so like some of these really dark blues look black to me on this monitor. If I was on my newer monitor over here, I'd be able to tell the contrast is much sharper because it's a higher resolution monitor. So I need to think about that. Priest says, are you sure you're not just getting old, Raku? It could very well be both. My eyes aren't getting any younger, and considering I spend the vast majority of my day looking at a computer screen, it definitely could be a factor. But in the short term, getting an up-to-date monitor would fix a problem a little. Like you can't tell on the broadcast, but I just pulled my Photoshop window over to my newer monitor, and it's much more stark, the contrast, by a few shades. But we will make do. Oop, I don't want that. Dragon says, see, my monitor is about 8+ years old. This tablet is older than that. I've had this tablet since about 2010, I want to say. I have to go look at my receipt if you want a exact date, but it's old. I've had this thing for a while. None of my monitors last that long. Usually I'll replace them after like 5 years or so, especially if they have issues with like color display or whatnot. But this thing wasn't cheap, which is why I haven't replaced it. Okay, let's delete out some more of the sections here along the body. Again, this probably is going to be ending up primarily all in black for now, and then we'll have to fix the shading later. That's gonna be tough, but we'll be able to assign an actual color palette, which will make it easier. Okay, leg ends here. This is the leg that's behind the arm. Thinking about changing the shape of the claws, but I think I'll leave them the way they are for now. They're pretty similar. Kurum's feet and Scyther's feet are pretty similar. They're both three-toed with claws. On the topic of my tablet, as Capri Sun says, it's almost a decade and a half. Yeah, that's a pretty long time for, if you're talking about my tablet, that's a long time for a piece of hardware, admittedly. But the reason why I haven't replaced it is, again, it was expensive. And it still works. Until it physically breaks, knock on wood, I have no immediate reason to replace my tablet. But it is getting a little bit harder to see on the display. Maybe this year, we'll see. Got some expenses this year. And replacing a drawing monitor isn't at the top of my list. Oh, I got a save reminder and a stretch from Sour Lad. Good idea. Good idea. Okay, let me clear out the color on this leg, including the texture and lines. And we'll take a look at what we've got. Yeah, we'll line in the talons here, and I'll leave the other ones like that just so I don't lose place of where they are in the model. On the topic of hardware, Freesun says expensive is a good reason. Yeah, that's the main reason as far as my tablet goes. That and the fact that it's not broken. But just like anything you invest in, it won't last forever. And again, assuming 2010-ish when I got this one, it's either 2010 or 2011. But over a decade of use out of a piece of hardware is pretty good. Whether or not it's like $2,500 worth of mileage, I guess it kind of depends. If I sold merch, then I could probably balance out how much money I've made versus how much it cost, but I don't, so it's kind of hard to quantify that. It would be good to know that I probably won't need to buy another one of these since there's so many good competitors on the market now for drawing tablets. So I don't have to expect to replace it with something that's going to cost me that much again. Red Dragon says Cat Saiyan Persona. Oh yeah, that's Capri Sun's Persona, a Cat Saiyan. The OC's name is Kinsey, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Capri Sun. It's been a while. But that's the Saiyan with the purple outfit. Yeah, okay. Trying to remember. My memory's not completely shot yet. Okay, let's connect this part here for the hindquarters. That's probably better for now. Oh, okay, it was Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 outfit, the purple. I remember. Looking at a... Oops, put that back. Looking at the head for our Sirem fusion here. I think I do want to have the lower jaw. This is kind of a mix of Scyther's head shape and Kurem's head shape. I think it looks a little bit more natural than without the jaw. Okay. Let's take a look at what we've got and now start thinking about color. So in order to do that, we're going to need to identify a base palette from... Whoop, not you. You stay there. For Scyther. So to recap the rules in Pokemon Infinite Fusion, since we are following the rules from the game, when you combine two components, you have a body and a head. The head, in addition to literally determining the head shape, the head also determines the color palette. So the head is Scyther, the body's Kurem. Therefore, the color palette has to match Scyther's color palette. And then the details we kind of merge together with the head and like the sides and everything kind of merge together in Kurem's body. So Kurem has the base body, but the color palette is coming from Scyther. Now, let's put this on a different layer so I can hide this one when I need. Let's call this Scyther palette. Spell palette correctly. So we need to map out all of the colors that Scyther has on its palette. And we'll start with the greens. This is not the only way to show this, it's just the way it seemed to make the most sense for me. So we're going to put them up here in the corner. So the lightest green is this sort of neonish green. Then we have mid-tone right here. Then we have the first of the lines, the darker tones here. Then we have the darkest color, which is going to be the outline here. So 4 shades. I'm counting 4 shades of green. I think that's all of them. Next we have the yellows. So the yellows correspond to mostly the wings. These are the lightest color of the wings. Kind of cream colored shade. Then we have the shadow, slightly darker kind of beige shade. And then I'm going to lump this in with this category as opposed to the greens. We have this darker color, which is the outline of the wings. Kind of brown, greenish color. But we'll lump it in here. That way it's separate. We're going to want to use, to answer Capri Sun's question, we're going to want to use the identical color shading from Scyther. Adapting that into the fusion is going to be difficult, but when we lay down the base colors, we're going to use these shades to start. And then the biggest challenge of this whole piece, I can tell right now, is going to be getting the outline to match the shadowing. That's going to take some trial and error, but we want the colors laid down first. And so, let's see, is there anything else besides black? Oh, there's white. There's a couple shades of white. So we have the eye, which, yeah, base shade of white. We have mid-tone coming from the scythe shadowing. It's kind of gray color, gray silver. We have a slightly darker color for the accented lines on the scythes. And then we have a dark shade of gray for the outline. Yeah, I see a lot of discussion of OCs and OC lore. I'm sorry I'm not recapping it line by line, but I do see it. I encourage you folks, if you feel comfortable, to put the lore of your projects or your characters in the media share. And feel free to discuss it there in the Discord. That's what it's for. I know for OC information, again, it's not news to any of you folks, but everyone should be cool discussing OC lore. I don't want anyone criticizing people's lore creations, but you folks wouldn't do that, so I'm not too worried about it. But feel free to share and talk about stuff like that. I encourage that kind of discussion. Just, be civil like you folks normally are. Capri Sun says, "No worries. Sorry if it took up too much space here." No. You could talk about stuff here, but like for more in-depth lore stuff, feel free to put it in the media share so people can see it. As far as fiction type stuff, if you have a link to a document or somewhere, because Iconic is asking, might I put my fic in there? If you can find a way to put it in there, it's not going to just like put a huge, like massive thing of text. Like if you can link it to something, then yeah, by all means. That's what media share is for. If it's a Google document that you have, just make sure you put the permissions so that people can look at it but not tinker with it, unless you want people to tinker with it. But yeah, feel free to link stuff in there. Sorry, that says like turn into a. I'm assuming you meant PDF. No, I don't mean like that. I just mean like if you have a link to like a Google file or something, then that's fine. A PDF would still require people to download it, which you could do if you wanted, but that's probably more work than just putting like a link to a text document. I know for the recipe section, in the recipe section, I've been putting text documents for recipes. So you could do it that way as well. Just whatever's easier. I don't have a preference. Just use common sense. Okay. Now, let's work on color assignment for... I'm going to rename this. Syrem. That's not how you spell Syrem. There we go. This will be our working spot. Let's start dropping in color and I shouldn't have hid that. We'll keep Scyther up here. We're going to follow the same sort of methodology for adding in the color that's on the original Scyther. So we just need to be aware of what's being used for midtones and highlights versus, darker shades and whatnot. Now, this is one thing I didn't think to check. There is another shade I might have missed. Is it this one? Is the same as... No, okay. So the shade can be used for accent lines and actual shadowing. The second darkest shade, rather. Okay, that's good to know. So I think the majority of Cyrem's body is going to be green. In fact, I think almost all of it is going to be green to start. So we want this shade, the mid-tone shade. And so we'll get you out of the way for a sec. Nope, that is, and that's on the wrong layer. I'm going to move you up a ways. Put you up there. I want to fill down here. I think there will be some kind of body joint parts, like these beige colors up here, which are in between the connecting parts on the limbs. I'm going to do that a little bit on here too. Like for the arm, it's hard to see now, but the arm section here will be the same color. And let's add in a section on the legs. We'll do that right here. We'll do it like that. Hopefully that doesn't mess with the perspective too much. Pre-Sun says, terribly sorry, I think I need to go. I'm getting tired and have to be up at 8 hours. But thank you for the stream. Oh, no problem, Capri Sun. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with all of us. Hope you get some rest. Have a good night's sleep. And let's see, we got a hydrate stretch. I need to switch to Gufuel. You go over here. And a save reminder. And a small Uraku from Red Dragon. Oh, I see. Sarlad's referring to the wings. Yellow ice. Yeah, thematically it's just a different shade. Yellow ice is too close to yellow snow. We don't want that. Let's see. Small Raku time. Back on the tablet. Reset the clock. Pre-Sun says, if you see me up later, it's because I failed at falling asleep. Well, good luck. Hopefully you don't have trouble falling asleep. I know what that's like. All too well. Kong says this is coming along great. By the way, it's getting there. This one's going to be a challenge from start to finish, but it's slowly coming together. So thank you. We need to put the same texturing on the top of the wing here. There we go. And let's keep filling down the main sections. Okay, and there's this part of the body. Now for the inner colored parts, they'll be the same color as the wings. That's the part I was talking about earlier. So we want this color, I believe. Oh, no, that's the shade color. We want the lighter one, the lightest tone for the base color. The wings and the joints and the shadows will be more of a contrast. Oh, did Iconic take off too? I miss a message somewhere. I thought Iconic was saying bye to Capri Sun. Guess we'll find out. Yep, Iconic is still here. Still hanging out and vibing. Oh, that's the wrong color. Okay, now we need to do the sides themselves. Sides and the spikes. We'll make those white. And the claws on the feet, same thing. And for the eye, that's another thing I was going to look at. Scyther's eye is white with just a little black pupil. And it doesn't have a lower line bounding it, which I also realized just looking at it now. So we could do the same thing. I wonder if it'll look... That's not bad. Might have to add a little more white there, though. That's tough. Maybe do something like that, and we use the line to kind of define everything here, kind of like that. I might have to play around with both positioning and the overall look, but that's not terrible. I have to figure out the claws and the feet and the shading, so it's kind of placeholdered for now. But we'll leave it the way it is, and then we'll kind of work top to bottom, I think. Iconic says, with this more complete, it looks like one is on the other. I should probably hide that to avoid any confusion. If someone jumps on the stream, they're going to think I'm drawing a Scyther and a weird mutant Scyther mating. That's definitely not this kind of stream. Not trying to get banned by the Twitch overlords. Not today. Oh yeah, small mode is done. Wasn't even thinking about it. Okay, now the tough part. Let's go ahead and save our progress here. We want to change the line art so that it's reflecting the right colors, right shades, and the right tones, because it can't be all black. And this is probably what I struggle with the most when doing these, just because it's very specific. But fortunately, we don't have a lot of colors to work with. It's primarily going to be this color green, this dark green. So the way it works, just as a recap to folks who might not have heard me talk about this in a while, when doing the Infinite Fusion, there's a specific, Infinite Fusion sprites rather, there's a specific rule you got to follow when it comes to the lighting, right? Which is consistent across the Pokemon games, at least until they went 3D. The light source is always coming from the upper left, and it's hitting the model from that side. So anything that's touching the light source, as it were, is going to be outlined in color. And anything that's going to be shadowed or hidden from the light source, with a couple exceptions, is going to be black. The darkest shade is reserved for the shadows, and that's a really tough thing to kind of get your head around on the beginning. So in general, and again, I'm not a pro at this, a lot of the regulars have helped me quite a bit in learning how to do this consistently. Usually the lines that are near the top of the model where light source is hitting are going to be a colored outline. So you can kind of start working top to bottom, and you know everything up here in the upper edge where the light is shining down, in theory, is not going to be black. It's going to be dark green. And that's usually a good place to start when it comes to defining the shadows. And we can look at the original Scyther, and I'll kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Alright, I'm going to have you not be right there. In fact, we'll hide you. So if we look at the original Scyther, and they're pretty consistent with this. I'd be curious to see how the sprite designers were advised to follow lighting rules back in the day when they were doing these. But if we take a look at Scyther here, you can see the darkest green for the most part. In fact, I think these ones right here that are black should actually be dark green. But you can see it all following that rule where the light's coming from over here. So all of these are going to be the dark green. Same up here. Same on the actual face itself. These ones underneath, it's kind of, yeah, I don't think they need to be black, so because they're still closer to the light source, assuming it's shining again from this direction. But this edge of the scythe is black because it's basically being shadowed by the body and the head. And these parts under here, normally you would probably line these in black, but they're dark gray, so I guess that would pass. We'll have to see when we get to the one I'm working on. I'm going to follow the original model and we'll see if I get corrected. But you can see how in different sections there's black parts where it's supposed to be more heavily shadowed and other parts where it's dark green. It's a bit trial and error, but for the most part, I feel like I'm learning bit by bit how to have the line distinction shades be accurate to the rules. So we're going to continue to line in the respective sections that are going to be dark green. And after we do that, then we're going to move on to the next color, which is probably going to be the wing color, the white or cream colored. And we'll use the lowest shade, again, for the outline. It's going to match the wings. And I'm going to have to look at the original model for that too. Whoop. I think we're gonna go the dark gray color on the underside of the sides. We'll match the way they do it on the original Scyther. We'll call it good there for now. But also going onto the body, this is the part that's going to be the toughest. Yeah, we'll keep lining this one here. The shoulder, again, kind of guess a little bit. And down here, same thing. The trailing edge at the top of the scythe closest to us. Same color. Still don't think this one is quite as difficult as the Kecleon Gengar, just because of the sheer amount of detail on that one. That was the toughest one I've done so far. This one has got a bit of complexity to it, but I think I can probably get this one across the finish line faster than the Kecleon Gengar. I was working on that one for like 3 weeks in the Discord. More like 2 weeks. 2 weeks of comments and fixing stuff. It wasn't too bad. Alright, let's do the wings next. I'll put you over here. So we want that color. And so the wing texturing is kind of unique. I don't know if it's necessarily following the rules, but I'm going to do the same thing as the source, and again, we'll see if I get corrected. The way the shading works on the original is kind of unusual. It sort of breaks its own rule in places, but we'll just duplicate it for now. You could see that they use their lighter color instead of black on this part, and then there's a section here that's still black. It's kind of weird. They kind of do it that way. And I am on the wrong layer again. That's why it's doing that. All right. Wouldn't be a drawing stream if I didn't do that at least 5 times today. You want to be down here. Okay, same thing. Then in between, leave a little bit of space for the highlighting. And that's the only section that has that coloring, but I'm going to do something similar just for consistency on the lighter parts in between the limbs here. Red Dragon says, well, it's coming up to 2 a.m. here, so I better try to sleep. Bye, all. All right, Red Dragon. Thanks for tuning in again and chilling with us. A lot of good discussion today, so hope you get a good night's rest, and I will catch you next time. I'll mention it towards the end, but we will be back tomorrow with more DSP. That is Dyson Sphere Program, not Dark Side Phil. I hate that I have to clarify that every time, but more fun with base building and trying to get into space to fight angry robots tomorrow. Alright, let's do the coloring on the scythes next. It was interesting. It kind of just takes over the entire underside for the sides with this darker gray color. Oh, I missed a green part too. Again, I'm going to follow the original model here. And we will see what happens. Actually, no, this color's going to be different. This one's going to be lighter in the middle. But up here, yeah, there we go. And same thing up here. The butt spikes. All right, let's hide you. Do kind of another sweep on the line work. Let's see if we need to correct anything here. I think the next step, before we get into the dark colors, we want to do some lighter shade highlights, which is not in a whole bunch of spots in the original. It's actually, that's not true. It's in a couple spots. If you look at the original, there's the top of the head here, top of the scythe here, top of the wings, a little bit on the shoulders, and a little bit on the hindquarters. There's a touch of highlight, which is going to be our lightest shade of green here. So that's going to be interesting to kind of convey. In fact, maybe I'll just leave you further up. Or maybe further back. I just need a reference as I move through each section. So like on the head, it's basically the trailing edges where the light touches. And then same thing on the top of the wings. A little bit of on the shoulders, kind of a circular just patch of lighter color here. Makes it look 3D too, since the little shoulder parts of Scyther are kind of round. Look like little spheres. Now, because we're changing the angle a little bit, I don't think we need to put highlights over here. Technically, this is kind of under the body. So it makes me wonder, maybe on this side, we'll put a little bit of highlight. And then on the hindquarters, the legs, a little bit just towards the bottom. I think if we're following the rules of the original too, and this is going to be kind of a departure a little, I think we need to put a little bit of highlights on the parts here that are exposed to the light. On the original Scyther, it's kind of tucked behind like the wings and everything. But up here, there is sections that the light is touching. Yeah, that's not bad. It is consistent. I guess we'll see if it flies. I'm thinking the next, well, the last big part is going to be the dark tone shading. And if you look at, again, the original, there's not a ton. There's going to be more on the fusion just because there's a bit more depth perspective, if that makes sense. But that's going to require a bit more trial and error, I think, because this is going to be our tone for the shadows, like on the body for the green. So to me, things like the jaw, all the parts that are underneath are going to definitely have this darker tone of shading. And as far as the body goes, basically we're looking at which way the light falls and where it would be shadowed as parts that are underneath the light source, as it were. There is some dithering on the wings, I noticed. I am not super good at that. The dithering is when we have like these dot particles here that break up the shading a little bit. Some of the later gen models, let's see, come over here. Some of the later gen models for the Pokemon would do this more, and depending on what you're using as your reference, you might see this dithering effect a bit more. It does help create some kind of dynamic shading. So on the original, it's only on the wings, so maybe we'll do a little bit of that, but for the most part, it's going to be flat shadows. But I get the feeling a lot of the base color shading on the body, the dark green, is probably going to require some trial and error. You have to kind of think of where things are in front of the body and casting shadows, in addition to things that are being shadowed from the light source. And that is difficult. That is the most difficult part of drawing sprites in this way. So I feel like here there's a couple spot shades, but not a ton. And down here, we can also look at our original Curum as well to see where the shadows lie, since we're kind of following that. So things like the leg in the background, it's going to be pretty much all shaded in because it's being obscured by the rest of the body. So that's easy. What we'll do as we get ready to wrap up, we will get the base shading down for the body, and then I will probably have to tinker around with this a bit off stream. But we actually got pretty close to finishing this one. I thought it was going to take a lot longer to put the details in, but whenever we pick up for another one of these Pokemon sprite drawing streams, I will have this one finished and I can show you folks what it looks like. Because usually what I'll do, just as a good practice, whenever I draw something that I'm getting ready to submit somewhere, like for the Infinite Fusion stuff and whatnot, when I finish it, I will usually set whatever it is I'm working on aside, let it marinate for a bit, and then I'll come back to it like a day or so later and see if anything jumps out at me before I actually submit it. I found that tends to work pretty well when it comes to catching mistakes and things that I didn't see when I've been staring at a thing for, an hour. So I would recommend is just a strategy in any creative project. After you finish working on something for a stretch, before you finalize it, just sit on it for a little bit and look at it with fresh eyes, and a lot of times you'll find things you missed. I know I do. Alright, let's put the shading down on the wings. Make sure we're on the same layer. The wing shades aren't too bad. I'll have to kind of fill around with the dithering a bit, but it's just creating a bit of additional shades here or there to make it more dynamic. And we could probably form fill this entire lower one, just like in the original. Yeah, I might have to experiment with that a little bit, but that'll probably do okay for now. Now we just have to do the claws. So for the claws, we'll use the mid-tone shade here. The sights I'm going to leave white, and we'll see what people say as far as the on model. But like up here for these butt spikes, just needs to be shaded on the underside. I'm going to do a real quick pass and touch up some sections that I think just need to be fixed a little. And then, again, I'm probably going to have to look at this again later and see what else I want to fix. But let's take stock of what we've done before we wrap up for today. So we'll do one more save. Now, when we started, our auto-generated sprite for Scyther plus Curum. Again, it's fuzzy because I had to scale it down from the in-game sprite, but it looked like this. If it wasn't for the head, I would say it's actually kind of functional. The kind of icicle spikes around the head look like they're just pasted on, and it looks kind of goofy. Based on this, compare it to our boy here. It'll be cut off a little bit if you can kind of compare them side by side. The features are definitely more integrated. They don't look like they're just pasted together. It's like a Frankenstein's monster. Shorten the neck a little bit. I think the long skinny neck was kind of goofy. But I think what we have here is definitely pretty functional. Again, the shading specifically, I'm going to have to tinker with a little. But overall, I think we've kind of combined them cleanly. That was going to be a little more difficult. But again, it's hard to tell. This one doesn't really hold a candle in complexity to the Kekgar one. That one's still the toughest one I've done so far. Iconic says, looks great. Oh, thanks, Iconic. Again, I'll tinker with it a bit before I finalize it. But I think we've got something pretty functional for the fusion. I was hoping we'd have time to do more than one, but in the meantime, this one was a bit more complicated, so it's fine. Also, like I mentioned before, Iconic, again, based on what I sent you in Discord, if you come up with an idea for a fusion, since we didn't do yours from a couple streams ago, just let me know. It doesn't have to be today. I probably won't be doing this again for a little bit, but feel free to send me a suggestion for a fusion if you can come up with one that doesn't have a custom sprite. And then we'll work on that next time. All right, let's get rid of you. And we'll save our progress. Let's go see who is online to raid. I'll leave the BGM while I go look up the homie list here. Oh, I see Mycelia's online. She is currently doing art as well, it looks like. So we go ahead and send everyone over there and see how Mycelia's art stream is going. So let me go ahead and queue this up, and we will get ready to ship over there and say what's up. Let me pause the BGM. And we'll go to outro. And I think we got everything set. So once again, thanks for hanging out today, folks. It was a really good discussion on a lot of topics, not just related to the arts itself. You can always count on you folks to bring good topics for discussion here. In the meantime, hope everyone has a good evening. Like I told Capri Sun earlier, or Red Dragon rather, we'll be back tomorrow, roughly the same time, maybe earlier if I can get started earlier. We'll be jumping back into more Dyson Sphere program, making progress on our base. And it should be a good time. But so until then, once again, have a good evening. Now let's go see what the Mushroom Lady's up to.